there's the closure, limbo, and renewal phase. So these are
Mm,
sort of the three phases of a transition. I feel like it's easy to say like every new beginning has to start with an ending, right? Like there
yes.
has to be an end. And I think all of us struggle in certain phases and some of us flourish in different phases.
You're listening to the You Can and You Will show, a podcast that empowers female leaders, high achievers, female executives, and artists to be confident, to overcome their obstacles, and live that exceptional and successful career and life. My name is Catherine Louise, and I'm a business and mindset mentor and communication expert, best known for mentoring female leaders, executives, and artists so that they can flourish in their career and life. And you can and you will. I'm sitting down to share the tools to create that success and lifestyle and how to make an impact. Hi, and welcome back to a brand new episode here on You Can and You Will. I'm Catherine Louise. I'm your host. I'm a business and mindset mentor and communication expert. And today, if you're watching the show right now on YouTube, you already know I have such a beautiful guest by my side. This is Ella. She's a life coach and transitioning coach. Hi, Ella.
Hi, so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It is so nice to have you on the show because when I learned more about you, you're a transitioning coach, and I have heard all sorts of coaches before. There are so many for various stages in your life, obviously, but transitioning, like a transitioning coach, and specifically, you were talking about the three different stages. And that really got me hooked. You want to just let us know more about this?
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, so I would say, if you look at sort of the coaching space, like there's a lot of talk about change, like
Mhm.
goal setting, achieving your dreams, and all of these things. And I think what we forget is at the base of change is like an identity, it's an identity shift. And that's, I think, the hardest part about change is like there's so many things that come with starting a business, getting married, becoming a mom, right? And I think like we tend to kind of just focus on like doing, but we never really focus on like who am I? Like what do I care about, right? And so we tend to sort of get burnt out or anxious or sort of overthinking a little bit. So really the work I do with people is I help them through any transition. So it could be something from like getting married to career transition to getting into their 30s and feeling lost and not sure, like they're not, maybe they're not married, they're comparing themselves to everyone else, or they are getting married and they're feeling nervous about it, right? So or even transitioning into getting to know yourself, right?
Mm,
So I kind of come in at different levels, but with the three stages you were talking about, so generally it's there's the closure, limbo, and renewal phase. So these are
mm,
sort of the three phases of a transition. I feel like it's easy to say like every new beginning has to start with an ending, right? Like there
yes.
has to be an end. And I think all of us struggle in certain phases and some of us flourish in different phases, right? It just really depends on who you are and your life experience and your strengths. So those are the stages. But I also find that when people come to me, there are three other stages, which is they're either avoiding the transition,
Ah,
like they're at a job they hate, they've been complaining about it for a year, but they're terrified to sort of take that step, right?
yes.
Or
Mm,
in the middle, they're starting a business, they're pregnant, they're right, like they're in that limbo phase of like kind of in the middle, and that can bring up a lot of different emotions. Or they're sort of already at the other end of it, right? So they're trying to like get used to this new way of living and kind of setting goals and things. So that's just a little bit about the work I do and like where, and a little bit more about the stages.
how did you like? When was that point? I'm really curious to know that. When was that point when you were like, okay, this is like really my purpose. I am just here to really support people through those really difficult phases. Why did you like specify on those three stages?
Yeah, great question. So I started off as just more of a general self-love sort of life coach because, in the beginning, you have to get some experience or whatever. And then I realized, like, through time that, I myself have been through many transitions and I think I'm actually quite good at them. But I started realizing like how many, like, because I used to work in corporate, I used to live in LA and work in Hollywood, and I had a completely different life, and I completely changed it, or like, and did a lot of work on myself. And I was kind of looking at my story and my skills and said, okay, like, what am I really good at? And, I then went through my own little freak out transition for the first time when I got engaged. I started having all this like identity crisis, anxiety, and I coached myself through that. And then I was like, oh my God, like there are so many people who
Mm,
feel guilty about feeling anxious, even when there's good changes in life. So I was like, I would love to help people know that they didn't make the wrong decision because they feel scared, right? Like, I think when we make change in life, it's so scary, it's so uncertain, it's so
yes.
debilitating. So I really wanted to help people know that, like, they didn't make the wrong decision and this is part of the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And give them those tools to help become their own safety net in that process. So that's what it really, how it spoke to me.
I love that so much because, like, one of the biggest topics I have with my clients really is getting out of that knowing kind of stage because your ego is just trying to keep you quote unquote safe, just
Yeah.
really keeping you in the knowing. So that first stage is really a big one for most people. I just love how you call the second stage limbo. I know this to be true, but how do you like, why did you call it limbo? Which is almost like cute, but very like it almost like already tells it's about chaos, it's about up and downs. How do you define that limbo stage? I love that name.
Yeah. I said I would like, limbo to me kind of, maybe there's another word. It's like, it's called purgatory. I'm sure you've heard of
Mhm.
it, right? You're like
Yeah.
living in, but limbo to me is like, you're kind of being thrown between these two worlds, right? Like the past and the future. And you're trying to make sense of who
Yeah.
you are, because a lot of who we are tied to like our job, our relationships, or whatever. So when after you've finished the closure stage of saying goodbye to those things, it's time to rebuild,
Hmm.
right? Like, and that's scary as well. So I call it limbo because I think it really just is a time of like complete uncertainty. Like there's like a fog in front of you and you just kind
Yes.
of have to trust the process step by step. And I think people, when they feel that limbo, you don't want to, like, limbo's like an awkward feeling, it's like an icky feeling, whatever, they want to turn back
Hmm.
most of the time. So the more I can remind people that every emotion you're feeling at this stage, anxiety, disoriented, right, like nervous, fear, all of these things are actually good. That
Yeah.
means that you're reinventing yourself, right? So
I love that. And also what I believe what is like the sometimes even hurtful part about the limbo is when you have to let go before maybe even the new things where your new beginning has even shown up. That I
yes.
feel like is the most difficult part. And when you have your clients being in that limbo stage, what do you suggest them? What do you say to them when they really have to let go before the new things have shown up?
Yeah. So it's a few things. I think one thing we do is really focus on their values,
Mm.
right? Because I think, like I was saying earlier, let's say you ended a long career in fashion, like that's been your thing up until now, it's defined you. I have a client like this, right? She was a really good like designer and she was sick of the toxic
Oh,
work
yeah.
environment. She didn't want to have her life be her job, but it was really hard for her to transition from that because it defined her worth. It gave meaning to her life. It's, like when someone asks, what do you do? It's like part of our story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the things I do with people is I help them rewrite a new story, right? Of like, it's like, okay, now that I know that my worth is not tied to my job, who do I care about being? Like, what do I want my story to be? Um, what have I, it's a lot of unlearning too, right? Like up until now, I thought I had to be so and so and whatever. So a lot of the work we do is like, okay, what do I value now? Like, can I define those things? Because it's not enough to just say, I value loyalty, right? Like, what does that
Yeah.
even mean? Right? Like, it's such an esoteric thing. So I have them define what loyalty means to them, or love, or whatever the value, authenticity. And then we kind of come up with, okay, so what does it look like to be living in line with the value of authenticity? What are you doing differently? Are you going on dates more? Are you applying to jobs or that you love, right? So we do a lot of that rewriting story, value work, and then also just like a lot of emotional regulation too, which is just like allowing themselves to feel uncomfortable and not let it be a
Mm.
problem. I think that's something a lot of people, we were always avoiding, right? Like
Yeah.
with with social media, with, we don't have routines. Like, so it's helping them kind of be okay with all of their emotions, learning that there's no wrong emotion, right?
Yeah.
Let's validate them, but let's not let the feelings define us.
Mm.
It's a very blurred line, right? Like I was talking to a friend yesterday about it. She was like upset about this guy that's been like, kind of an asshole to her. Um, and I said to her, you have all these feelings about the situation, but they're not facts,
Mm.
right? Like she was like, he doesn't respect me, he doesn't like me. And I'm like, okay, it's like you have to separate, okay, I feel hurt, I feel rejected, but that's not a fact that he doesn't like me, right? Like it's kind of separating the feeling from the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And teaching them how to really work with their emotions instead of being a slave to them.
Oh, I like that. And once they have sort of left the limbo stage, and how did you call stage 3 again?
Excuse me.
The third stage, how did you call
Oh,
it?
renewal.
Okay, so when do they actually know? Like, how do you identify that you just entered the renewal stage? And how do you know, and how do you cope with that? Because we all know when you experience something completely new, your whole nervous system actually has to adjust in order to keep it, right?
Yes, beautiful question. So I think to answer the first one, how do they know? I think it's when the anxiety dissipates a little, and like the heavy emotions, and they're in motion, right? Like a client yesterday said to me, she's starting a consultancy practice after quitting years of corporate stuff. And she was like, it just feels good now to be in motion. But 2 months ago, she was freaking out, right? So
Mhm.
it's kind of like this more assured confidence that, okay, this is still uncertain and this is still new, but I can do it. Like I can handle it, right? It's like having that resilience and trust. I would say like 9 out of 10 people come to me and they say, I just want to trust myself. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, the only way to trust yourself is to hold yourself through the excruciating stage of limbo, because it is really hard. It is. I mean, nothing I think worth having comes easy.
Yes.
And there's all kinds of difficulties, I think, in the world right now that are making it extra hard for people. So I think giving yourself that grace and love and compassion is also really important. But yeah, I would say in the renewal stage, with it's seeing themselves actually building the life that they've always talked about. Because I think a lot of us are comfortable wanting and daydreaming and like wishing, and that's just a horrible place to be though, because you're
Mhm.
like, no, you can do it, but you're not doing it. right? So in the renewal phase, you're like, oh shit, like not only can I, but I'm doing it.
But I love that because most people really tend to not be able to move beyond
Yes.
one stage because they seem to typically stage one, then I would think really it is so difficult to coach yourself or mentor yourself out of that stage. It almost is impossible. What I was wondering, because I see with women in general and my clients, I was wondering for you and your clients, do you see a specific age or a life situation when that tends to happen most? Yeah, you're already nodding.
Yeah, 100%. I would say it's ages like 30 to 35
Oh, okay.
is sort of the sweet spot because it's like I think in your 20s, you're just kind of doing what everyone else is doing. You're
Mhm.
figuring it out, making mistakes. Hopefully, some of my clients didn't make any mistakes. That's why now they're like, I did everything perfectly. Why am I not happy?
Mhm.
That's generally like the consensus is like overachieving perfectionist women who have tried to do everything correctly, but are so hard on themselves and have lived a life according to society or their parents or whatever. Because if you think about it, like we're never really taught to like get to know ourselves. Like at 18 or 17, we're expected to decide what we want to study and do for the rest of our lives. And that's
Yes.
crazy.
It's crazy.
Trust an
Yeah.
18-year-old with that decision, right? It's like, that's crazy. So yeah, they're generally in their 30s and they're, either getting married and like dealing with that or career. The biggest shift I'm seeing post COVID is career changes. I mean,
Mhm.
I would say all of my clients, like almost all of my clients right now, are going through some kind of
Career
career crisis,
change.
meaning, yeah, like I do a lot of quarter life crisis work with people too. You hear about the midlife crisis, but the quarter life crisis is real.
It's real.
It really is.
Especially for because I see that with the women I work with, those super crazy successful women, but aren't happy and then almost feel guilty to even speak it out. They
Yep.
just know something is off, and I just really want to scream it out there because I just really want to help those women understand that it is okay to acknowledge that, first of all, and then realize, well, if you're not happy where you're at, there's no point in being guilty, but might as well want to change something about it. And then the other day, I had a conversation with two women, and they were like, well, but we got bills to pay, right? We got a mortgage, we
Yes.
have kids on college. And I'm like, well, but why do you believe that on the other side of this, on that happiness side and fulfilled side, you wouldn't even make more money? And they were
Yeah.
looking at me like, oh, okay,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
it is so important to really point that out. Like,
Uh,
trust your inner emotions. I love how you say that. Yes.
I think to what you just said, like a good analogy or visual I give people that they really like is you can kind of imagine like there's two buckets, right?
Mhm.
And one is faith and one is fear. And every day we get to decide which bucket like we want to sort of put something in, right? Like which one do we want to buy into? And the kicker here is that everything you're afraid of happening is just as in your imagination as everything that could happen. Like they're
Mhm.
both not real, like technically, right? Like there's no guarantee you're going to make $1 million. There's no guarantee that you're going to fail either. I mean, failure is, of course, higher probability, but I think sometimes the fears we have are just so out there and like imaginative. So if you think about it, both of these scenarios are not likely to happen, but if you keep paying attention to the scenarios that are negative, you're going to just get more evidence of that. It's really
Definitely.
that simple. And I remind myself of that too. I'm like, okay, how am I thinking about my content? Am I thinking I have nothing to say? It's too hard to say. If those weeks I don't post content because I'm investing in the no one cares. da 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 bucket. And really, when there's no evidence that no one cares, because that's bullshit, right? So it's like, I
Yes.
think it's every morning kind of visualizing, okay, faith bucket, let me just fill this one a little bit more, because it's not going to hurt anybody for you to believe in that one.
Well, and then also there is just really fulfillment in being happy. And I think
Yeah.
most of us don't even really know how that feels to begin with. So when there are women out there saying, okay, this is for me, I really want to work with you. How does it, can you walk us through how does that look like? Do you do 3 month, 6 month base contracts, or do you do single sessions? How do you like to work best?
Yeah. Um, so generally I tell people that 6 months is the sweet spot. Um, yeah, people start changing and like having results in month two already,
Mm-hmm.
but 6 months is locked in that.
Yeah.
So I would say generally 6 months is my ideal, thing for people.
Mhm.
I do on the occasion do like intensives. So like we do like a 90-minute call, followed by I have this app that I use with clients. Maybe I don't know if you use it, but it's called Boxer. And I offer this in all my coaching packages, right? Which is just like you get to have a coach in your pocket like Monday through
Mhm.
Friday, right? So in that intensive, we have a call. We really kind of set a goal on like one thing together. And then you have that accountability. And it gives you kind of a good feeling around coaching if you want to do more of it. But how it works is I just get on a call with someone, get to know them, see, because it's important that we A, get along, like there's a connection, and B, that I feel confident I can help them, right? And
Yes.
if I can't, if I don't think it's my thing or whatever, then I can always refer them to someone else. But yeah, that's generally how I like to do things. Just jump on a call and chat.
I love how you say that typically changes start showing up after 2 months, but 6 months is locked in. I 100% agree on that because really, if you want change to stick with you, 2 or 3 months, it's just not gonna do it from experience. So when people want to be in contact with you, try to be in contact with you, I'm gonna put all of your infos down below in the show notes. So make sure to check her out, also her Instagram account. But before I will have to let you go, I really want to give you 5 questions, which
Right.
I'm really curious about the answers. Question number one, what is your favorite food?
Pasta by far.
Oh,
Yeah.
any pasta specifically or just pasta in general?
Pasta in general, but if I had to pick, it would be penne alla vodka, probably.
Okay, I get that. Question number two. If you could pick any person, who would you love to spend a weekend with?
One of my best friends, he's in America. He's very far away. Riker. I miss him. I haven't seen him since like before the pandemic. So
Oh,
it would definitely be him.
oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so any chances you're gonna meet soon again?
I mean, I'm having my wedding, so probably then, or if he gets his butt over here to Berlin, which he would love, I think. He's been going through a lot of changes too, so it's been hard to like
Yes.
match up. Because I've lived in like 3 countries in the past 3 years, so it's like,
Ooh.
yeah, but we're
So
good.
you definitely know what the
We're
change
in
is
Berlin
about.
now.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, yep, definitely.
Question number three. What is your greatest achievement yet?
I would say leaving my career in film and television and starting my
Mm.
own business. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And just to have a thriving business now where I do what I love and I can literally just be where I want and finding my soulmate, like all these things. So I would say like my biggest achievement was letting go of who I thought I had to be happy and worthy and successful.
Was there anything in particular that you did to actually then take that step? Because you can prepare a lot. You can, do all of the things. But what do you remember? Was there like one specific thing that you did or action you took in order to actually do it then and leave that career and pursue your coaching career?
I mean, I would say it's like it was a 2-year buildup. Like for 2 years, I would just once in a while just daydream or imagine like being free and helping people in any capacity, not just coaching, but like volunteering. I really wanted to just help people, but I didn't think I could be successful or build a life doing that. I really thought like that's a belief I actually had, right?
Mhm.
So there wasn't like maybe one, I'm trying to think if there's like one moment. I think it's probably like driving home one day in traffic and just being like, what am I doing? But I also had a lot of soul searching to do myself, right? And I think the kicker for me was when I started getting into self work while at my job, which I tell people, by the way, don't quit your job cold turkey without doing some self work, because that helped me so much. I did a year of coaching, I did a year of self like exploratory work. I went into the desert, I meditated, I did all the things, and then I took the leap. It was still scary, but I was already on a good path internally,
Mhm.
right? So I wouldn't say it was one defining moment, but it was sort of a build up in my mind. And then I was like, okay, it's time to do the thing.
And
Yeah.
was there like a certain period of time that you like gave yourself like, okay, I need those numbers up until, I don't know, 6 months from now. So I know I'm going to sustain this business. Was there like anything that you did in terms of that?
I mean, not necessarily, because I went to get certified first before I started my business. So I had some time to really, my biggest goal was to stop working for a while and just rest. Like I was so burnt out. So I
Mm.
was studying for coaching, I was giving free coaching, and then the pandemic sort of coincided with my business starting and everything in 2019. And so I actually had time. I was living with my mom at the time, so I didn't have to pay rent. I was very like lucky in that regard to have a little bit more time to sort of build it up. But yeah, I mean, I had goals. I worked with business coaches. I had good experiences, I had bad experiences. I kind of, I had good savings, luckily. But, you know, yeah, I sort of said, I'm going to give myself a year and then kind of reevaluate. And I would go through ups. Like I would be making, a lot of clients, and then I take the summer off, and then it would go up. So it's like a journey. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
becoming an entrepreneur alone is like a whole different level of like self-help and self-development.
Yes,
So I was doing that kind of work too. Yeah. Yeah,
I get it.
definitely.
I've been an entrepreneur for more than 16 years. It's a journey.
Yes,
Every
exactly.
single year. Okay, so question number 5. What is your greatest source of inspiration?
Greatest source of inspiration. I would probably say reading, like reading not fiction, but nonfiction books.
Mhm.
Sometimes poetry too. I couldn't name you any, but it's just when I read a poem, the 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 feelings it'll actually, no, I take that back. Classical music too. Like I have a church right next door, and there's like a 50 band orchestra that plays
Mhm.
there. And I go and I just like, the acoustics in the church are so beautiful. So I would say like classical music and reading a passage, or reading just a beautiful page of writing, or just something that elicits something deeper. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that because it also tends to hit your subconscious straight away,
Yes.
right? Yes, I love that. Ella, thank you
Yeah.
so, so much for your time, for your wisdom, for sharing all of those things. Thank you so much.
Just wanted to add something really quick.
Yeah.
You can put this below, but I have a free quiz for people, and it helps you basically understand what stage of transition you're in, and gives you resources and things according to the stage you're in. So it's a great little thing. And when you take it, you basically get emails from me like once a month with specific advice stuff like that. So just want to put that out too.
Oh, perfect. I'm going to put that down below in the show notes as well. So people can just click on it on YouTube and obviously on your most favorite podcast platform. So thank you so much.
Of course, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.